Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well. For the benefit of those listening on the audio, you're listening to my Ask James stream on YouTube, where I welcome questions every Friday from the YouTube community, not just on FPL, but anything football related. I suspect with a 6 p.m. UK Friday deadline, again, a lot of this may well be dominated by FPL conversation. Interesting to note, next week's deadline is now going to be extremely early. It's going to be 4 p.m. I believe UK time. What's the deadline today? 6:30 p.m. UK time. I think next Friday before game week 8, it's going to be 4 p.m. UK time. I can imagine the nightmare in work offices around the country, whether most of us might be in lockdown by then. As per usual, I will start with team news for what we know so far. Please note, obviously, more than half of these teams still have press conferences to go before today's deadline. But I'll just go through what we know so far. So Wolves Crystal Palace starts the game week. Nuno Santo is becoming the sort of manager that's going to start frustrating FPL managers, I believe, because he's been very sketchy. Week to week saying we always have issues. What does that mean? Wouldn't confirm if Marcal would start. It's Kilman versus Saiss, and this might be the week where we get the answer in terms of what happens. If Marcal plays at left wing back, it's likely to be Kilman or Saiss at left-sided centre-half. Your guess is as good as mine in terms of which one will start, or if Saiss just stays at left wing back. For Crystal Palace, lots of returnees. Good news for them. Jack Butland will be available, although we do expect, obviously, Vicente Gaeta to stay in goal. Gary Cahill, James Tompkins, James McCarthy, Jordan Ayew all return to the squad. Tyreek Mitchell will be assessed. I don't pick the team, but the will be assessed obviously suggests that PVA could well come in for them this game week. And if he does, that'll be the end of it. James McArthur is also a doubt. For Sheffield United, Chris Wilder's confirmed that Max Lowe is in contention. Essentially, if the game against Liverpool in game week 6 had been on the Sunday, he would have been able to play, but because of concussion protocols, wasn't able to. So we'd expect him to come in for Ben Osborne at left wing back. Wilder also confirmed that John Lundstram will not sign a new contract. He's obviously fit. He's still available for selection, but one to note. For Manchester City, Sergio Aguero is out again, most likely until at least after the international break. Gabriel Jesus could be fit for the Liverpool match in game week 8. Aymeric Laporte and Kevin De Bruyne both played in midweek, so are available. Nathan Ake could return. For Burnley, Jack Cork is out. Eric Peters is expected to be out. Phil Bardsley is still isolating. Johan Berg Gudmundsson has a calf niggle and is one that could be on the treatment table again. He's being assessed. Unfortunately for Gudmundsson, good player, adds a dimension to Burnley's attack, but can't avoid injuries. Ben Mee is close, very close. He could play, but the performance of Kevin Long and James Tarkowski against Tottenham would suggest to me that they won't rush me. For Chelsea, Thiago is fit. They're obviously managing him. He didn't travel to Russia in midweek. There were a few tired players following the win in Russia. Callum Hudson-Odoi had a slight complaint after the game, but Frank Lampard said the player didn't report anything to him when he had his press conference yesterday, so he's not aware of any issues, but obviously they will train again today. For Liverpool, Fabinho obviously came off in the win over Midtjylland in midweek in the Champions League. He will have a scan on a tight hamstring. Until we know the results of that, we don't really know what the issue is. Joel Matip will remain a doubt. Could mean that Reece Williams plays at centre-half alongside Joe Gomez in what would be a very youthful Liverpool back line. But we believe they won't have to play against West Ham United's Mikel Antonio. There were reports yesterday afternoon that he could be available for the game, and West Ham were trying to keep it quiet. There were then further reports last night that suggested he will be out for anything between a month and 6 weeks. Suggest you keep a very close eye on David Moyes' press conference, which is scheduled for later today. For Aston Villa, there are no expected issues. They've played the same starting 11 in their last 2 league games. For Southampton, Theo Walcott will be available for the trip to Villa Park on Sunday, having been ineligible for the win over Everton last week. He will obviously be in direct competition with Stuart Armstrong for a starting spot. For Newcastle, Jonjo Shelvey is not likely back to after game week 8. Isaac Hayden was a substitute at Wolves, wasn't risked, should be available to start this one. For Everton, Luca Dean has a 1-game ban, expecting Kunku to cover at left back. And James Rodriguez remains a doubt again with the bollock issue that he picked up against Liverpool in game week 5. Yes, you didn't hear that incorrectly. but showed such extreme sense of credibility and, let's say it, balls to even get on the pitch against Southampton last week. Mason Holgate returned to training this week, but will be a few weeks away from returning to first team action. For Manchester United, obviously excellent win for them against Red Bull Leipzig in the Champions League, included a Marcus Rashford second half hat-trick. Alex Telles obviously has COVID and is isolating. For Arsenal, David Luiz will remain a doubt with a thigh injury. Rob Holding is likely out. Willian is available. Could mean a start at centre-half for Shkodran Mustafi. And guess what? I'm considering buying Marcus Rashford now. For Tottenham, no reported issues from the defeat in Belgium last night. Bit of a shocking performance. So I'll tell you what the team will be on Sunday. Lloris, Doherty, Alderweireld, Dyer, Reguilon, Sissoko, Højbjerg, Lucas and Dombele, Son, Kane. If that's not starting 11, I'll be extremely surprised. For Brighton, most of the squad fit. Proper has an outside chance of returning. Lewis Dunk still suspended. For Fulham, Niskins Cabano is out. Kamara is banned. Joshua Anderson, bought from Lyon, we thought would be out until the new year, has a chance of returning, apparently. He began training this week and will be assessed. So the obvious early reports on his initial injury must have been very wide of the mark. For West Bromwich Albion, Dara O'Shea returns to full training. Ahmed Hegazi has left the club on loan. It was one that kind of didn't get reported properly, but Slaven Bilic was properly upset about this. And it's one to keep an eye on. For Leeds, no reported issues as far as we're aware from the win over Aston Villa last week. Bielsa will have a press conference later today. For Leicester, they obviously won in Athens last night. Castagne is likely out until after the international break with a hamstring issue. Johnny Evans missed the win in Europe with a back complaint and will be assessed for the Monday night fixture at Ellen Road. That is the team news as I know it as of 9:15 a.m. on Friday. Please keep an eye on those press conferences today. So let's get into the questions. Let's see who's in. Patrick's in, said good morning. Optimus says, hey, boss. Optimus Prime in the house. One more game week is coming. Yeah, it'll be another one next week as well. Patrick says the plan was to downgrade Rashford to Grealish to get in Kane with 2 free transfers. With the form Rashford is in, is it still worth the move? Keep up the great work. Best out there. Appreciate that, Patrick. Thank you. You don't want to move Rashford now, do you? It's a different alternative. But what are we saying here about form? I mean, the obviously brilliant hat-trick in midweek. Is that the form? I don't know. It felt like a return to something. My consciousness on Marcus Rashford, to be honest, is not about tomorrow. I haven't decided what I'm doing yet. He's basically a straight call for me of Gareth Bale out for Rashford or Pulisic are the two I've narrowed it down to. And the chances are, whichever one I don't buy, I'm going to buy the other one next week. That's probably the plan of where I'm heading at the moment. So then it becomes a case of Rashford versus Arsenal or Pulisic versus Burnley. Now, I don't actually think that's an easy call. And I generally haven't decided. I'm going to have a little think about it this afternoon. By the time I do my stream later today, at what time will that be? 5:30. I'll know. I'll know by then what I'm doing for sure. But I wouldn't be moving Rashford now. If you're going to go Kane, Patrick, get on with it and get it done. It doesn't feel right to be moving Rashford. The main reason for me wanting to get him in is cover for captaincy in game week 9. Where at the moment, I'll probably be looking at captain either Rashford or Dominic Calvert-Lewin. That's what's in my thoughts at the moment. Jack Wilson says, hi, James. Harvey Barnes, keep or sell for FPL. 3 difficult games coming up. Leeds, Wolves, Liverpool. Then 3 very nice games afterwards. So I would suggest if you were going to hesitate about it, you'll end up finding that he'll stay. It's an interesting one. Leicester might cause Leeds some issues on the counter-attack, but you would expect Jamie Vardy to be the one that profits from that if anyone does in that game on Monday night. So, I mean, look, he'll get, I presume it'll probably still be Dallas at right back, depending on what Bielsa says on the potential fitness of the likes of Cooper, Laporte and Koch during the afternoon game, during his afternoon press conference, sorry. But if he's going to play against Dallas or Alien, and either one is going to give him a proper game and he's going to know about it, I would suggest Jamie Vardy will start. I'll be very confident of that. 4-day gap from the Thursday game to Monday night, winning goal at Arsenal last week. There's nothing to suggest Barnes' place in the team would be under threat. Just whether you think those returns are coming. He was getting a lot of shots away pre the international break. That's now calmed down quite a bit. Depends where you want to go, Jack. That's the main thing now. Angus McPhail says, morning, James. Good week in Fantasy Championship. Oh, bloody hell. I had an amazing week. I'm up to 15th now overall. Yeah. And for my patrons, I'm going to detail for you how I did it on next Wednesday's Planet EFL for you. Optimus Prime, I will bring Chilwell. Also, I'm thinking to bring in Mendy for Ramsdale. Is this stupid? Because I have also Pulisic. I have triple Chelsea players. Listen, you want triple Chelsea players, now's a good time to do it. 3 good fixtures. All you have to be aware of is come game week 10, 11, you're probably going to want to start removing some of them, if not all of them. That's the only thing you have to be aware of. But to be honest, if you said, right, you want a team with a triple up for the next 3 game weeks, I can't see a better one than Chelsea. The fixtures are Burnley, Sheffield United, Newcastle. What do you think when you hear those 3 fixtures? Because to me, it screams out clean sheets. So I really gave a second thought to buying Reece James this week. I don't think it's worth the -4 for myself, because I know the priority for me has to be removing Bale. Bale was a 4-week punt for me that's not worked, because it's quite simply it's not fit enough. It wouldn't surprise me if by the time the West Brom game comes around that he might make it, but he also might not. And when I say make it, I mean start in the team. He'll probably play minutes on Sunday night as well, depending on how the game's going. But yeah, I can't wait and leave that anymore. And knowing that I definitely would probably want to remove him beyond game week 8, 11. And look, once he's fit and up to full speed, is one I can obviously look at again. So that's fine, Optimus. So you're looking to bring in Chilwell and Mendy potentially. Look, those next 3 fixtures, they look like there's going to be clean sheets in there for Chelsea. Yes, remarkably, even Chelsea. We've obviously had 3 clean sheets in a row, right? With Seville, Manchester United, and the brilliantly named Krasnodar from Russia. Mohammed says, morning, James. You probably spoke about your wildcard free hit strategy. Can you elaborate more on that? So my strategy is wildcard game week 16. It's probably going to be free hit 18 to cover the fact there'll only be 5 fixtures. And then bench boost 19 when we should have 10 teams that have doubles. That's the plan. For that plan to work, I need to know what the game week 18 and 19 fixtures are before the deadline comes for game week 16. Which, to be honest, is game week 16, I believe, is the 28th of December, and game week 15 being Boxing Day. I think I might have that right. Yes, I think I do. Then, if I don't know by game week 15, I'm going to know that I'm in trouble, right? No one's going to release those dates on the 27th of December. So I need to know before game week 15 if that's going to work or not. And it's possible that I won't know the fixtures, and in which case the strategy is kind of dead on its arse. But I'm not in a desperate position where I particularly feel like I want a wild card. One of my strategies pre-game week 1 was to try and keep the defence together, not make any changes. Considered Reece James because I think that's a serious upgrade. And that'd be more about moving money about. But at the moment, it's still there. I've still got the same back 5, same 2 keepers that I've had since the start of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if I get to game week 16, and that's still where I'm at, as long as they all stay fit. Also, Recluse is in. Good morning, mate. Nerd says, thoughts on Ayling to Soufal? Would be on my bench, 2 frees and no priorities elsewhere. Ayling playing centre-back. Yeah, but Ayling's not going to stay at centre-back, mate. As I just said, it's dependent on what Bielsa says in terms of when his players are back fit. And if he's got 2 centre-halves to pick from, Ayling will go back to right-back and Dallas will go back to left-back. Ayling's not going to stay at centre-back. I'm certain of that. So just give that a second thought, mate. Also, Recluses for Sky. I have Castagne in both teams, thinking Thiago Silva in one and Fofana into the other. The issue with that, mate, is they're obviously managing Thiago Silva, as Lampard said. Now, they've had a good start in the Champions League with 4 points. But do they decide with the 2 games against Rennes coming up that Thiago Silva is more important to them in that than the league games where physically you can potentially see clean sheets? I could definitely see returns for him in those next 3. The other issue is Antonio Rudiger played in midweek for Chelsea, so I presume he's back and available for potential selection for Chelsea. So you've got Zuma, Rudiger back amongst it now, Thiago Silva. I don't know where Christensen is, as Pelaqueta can obviously play there as well, although normally only when they play a back 3. We don't know the system they're going to play. I'd suggest probably the back 3 playing centre of that would probably help Thiago a little bit more as well. Not one for me from a Sky perspective, to be honest with you, mate. But Castagne should be moved on. You're certainly right about that. Optimus says, after Antonio injury, my plan was at game week 8, bring Antonio for Jimenez or DCL? What will I do now? Keep them replaced with Ings or other players? So my plan was Jimenez to Mikel Antonio next week as well. Now, assuming he's out injured, then that's off the table. And the guy I will go to as it stands now instead is Che Adams. Newcastle at home. Wolves, Man United, not brilliant afterwards. Brighton, Sheffield United, the two after that. I just think he's offering great value at his price. Better short-term fixtures, in my opinion, than Bamford. It might be that come game week 13, I reverse that and go Adams to Bamford for that little period before our wild card. But at the moment, yeah, generally, I'll 5.8 million. I might well go back to Che Adams next week. His numbers, I did this on the Sky podcast we did on Wednesday. His numbers versus Danny Ings at the moment, they're basically the same. They're basically the same numbers statistically. And where I always thought Ings was going to be worth the extra, and that Ings will outscore him because he's a better player, right? More likely to score from the edge of the box, that kind of thing as well. I'm beginning to think that saving's really interesting. And the timing of the transfer was a walk into Newcastle. It's not a bad fixture. So Che Adams is probably the likely move now instead of Antonio if he's fit. It might be that Allaire is a possibility come this time next week. Genuinely, it might well be. I suspect they might play Bowen through the middle against Liverpool tomorrow. Doesn't mean they'll do that against Fulham. It could be Allaire next week. Would be a real punt. Donna Boyle says, morning, James. Would you consider Rashford to be a better pick than Bruno at present? Good question, Donna. No, I don't. But it's more affordable. I can't go from Bale to Fernandes in one move at the moment. So Fernandes is off the table for me. The games coming up do scream Rashford a little bit with the counter-attacking potential against Arsenal and Everton. West Brom just potentially being a bit of whipping boys, although they were much better at Brighton on Monday. Southampton away, running in behind. Yes, please. So that's what really interests me most on Rashford is game week 9 and 10, and possibly this week as well. As I said, I need to make a Rashford versus Pulisic call later today. But no, I probably wouldn't because it'd be Bruno setting him up quite a lot. Harry Redmond says players like Taylor and Jimenez, are they worth the extra transfer? Not this week to avoid the -1. I presume you mean on the value there, Harry. So I've got Charlie Taylor's a good example of this. So as I say, I was considering Reece James. Now I could go Charlie Taylor to Reece James, one move. Burnley's fixtures don't massively appeal, although the next two are okay. Brighton and Crystal Palace. Although I almost certainly wouldn't use Charlie Taylor next week. I might do against Crystal Palace. The thing is, Burnley, I saw enough on Monday and obviously in the game at West Brom the week before to suggest they're getting there. They're getting there. Shape of the team's better. Team's getting fitter. He's the sort of one you can leave on the bench. Now, I know what you're saying. You don't want to lose that 0.1 on him. And because the fixtures they've got coming up, he probably is not going to get the return back. But if Burnley would suddenly keep back-to-back clean sheets, he's the go-to because he'll be the guy at 4.4. And so that's part way I think for me it's probably not worth the transfer. Admittedly, if I was getting Reece James now, that would be the transfer that I would make is to move him on. But it's also as much because I don't think I'll play him much. But then will I be completely wasting Ayling and Kyle Walker-Peters? And actually, between the rotation of the three of them, I've got the decision right on them most of the time. As it stands, I'm going to play Ayling for those that want to know. Jimenez might be one. If I decide to go Jimenez to Che Adams, and Jimenez is going to die on his arse for his price on Sunday night, for example, I might just pull the trigger and sell him. Maybe even tonight. Obviously, get to see them in action tonight. I don't really want to buy a player before he plays. I'd probably want to wait till after Sunday. If, for example, in my case, Che Adams plays on Sunday. So I'd probably want to wait for then. At that point, I should be safe. Look, COVID can come up. Could happen at any point, any time. I'm not keen on making transfers for players before they've played. So if Jimenez was going to drop in price tonight, for example, I wouldn't buy Che Adams tonight. I don't think that would be the right thing to do. And it might be that something changes my opinion this weekend in terms of who I want to buy anyway. So in that position, I'd rather lose the value. But a lot of other people will feel differently about that. Whitebeard is in, says afternoon, morning, all well, pal. Mohammed said, who's the better long-term option, Lookman or St. Maximin? Fulham's fixtures are dirty after West Brom, West Ham, Everton, Leicester, Man City, Liverpool. Their 5 fixtures between game week 8 and game week 12. It's disgusting. But at the moment, if I was buying one, I'd be Lookman, to be honest. We spoke at length on Clash of Correspondence yesterday with FPL Footballer about Newcastle and St. Maximin's positioning. And it's an interesting one because me and Sai, FPL Footballer, both think he should play through the middle, probably in a 4-2-3-1, and just let him play where he wants and roam. But then at Spirit Blue, Sean said, from an Everton perspective, we wouldn't want him to play on the left. That's where he thinks they would hurt them the most. They obviously played this system at Newcastle, which kind of had him up front, basically, with Callum Wilson in the 5-3-2. But I think that was forced on by personnel somewhat, and also a matching of Wolves, and then still having the 3 versus 2 in essential areas. I don't know if that's going to keep or stick. Just be cautious. If St. Maximin plays up front again this week, I'd still be very cautious of that, and knowing that they've got players to come back into that team. For example, if it's John Joe Shelby, that flat midfield 3 probably doesn't work on the other side of the international break, for example. So Maximin is going to frustrate. But he's an amazing price. I can't argue that. Just know he really is going to frustrate the life of you. Difficult fixtures coming out: Everton, Southampton, Chelsea next 3. Then it's a nice run though for Newcastle. Palace, Villa, West Brom, Leeds, Fulham is okay. Game weeks 10 to 14, and I will potentially have a look again then. But I think it probably won't be one for me. Joseph Cole says, Sky question, keep Antonio, keep Rodriguez. Hammers is easier to keep. Plus, you may very well need, and we don't know yet, may very well need Hammers captaincy coverage against Fulham, depending on when they play that fixture in game week 9. Antonio, if he's out for a month, it's nothing to think about. It's just sell him. Sell him forever you want. On the Sky podcast on Wednesday, I went through a number of potential alternatives in terms of who to replace him with. Nerd says, people continue to overlook Ings' faults. I kind of covered that. I wouldn't say overlook. It's just for me. I love him as a player. I really, really like him. I've already owned him this season. He did very well for me. That saving on Adams now appears to be worth it. I think that's what it is, mate. But only 2% own Che Adams at the moment. There'll be interest in Southampton, I promise you. There'll be interest in Southampton coming into game week 8. I'm fairly certain of it. James Horan says, sell Watkins for Bamford or Adams or hold. Okay. So what do you want to sell for? Southampton at home bring you fear this week. Arsenal away the week after, tough. Then look at what's after for Villa. Brighton, West Ham, Newcastle, Wolves, Burnley, West Brom. I think you've probably got to stick it out, mate. To be honest. I mean, I would. If I was sitting there with Watkins, I'd be sticking it out. Also, Recluses, as you're the Gaffer Pro now, definitely am not, mate. What 3 stickers would you go with for next run of fixtures? Is that meant to be 3 strikers? Well, the 3 I've got is Solanke, Armstrong, and Ivan Toney. So that'll do, mate. They ain't moving. Owen Kinnear says, morning, James. Listen, do you think I've looked at the fixtures? No, I'm going to talk about this to you on Wednesday. Owen Kinnear says, morning, James. I'm in the luxury position of being able to move to Antonio to KDB and Sky. My question is, favorite way to take your eggs? I'm mood, right? And it depends what's going with it, right? So I quite like my eggs scrambled, generally speaking. When you got like beans and a full fry up on a plate, like a fried egg, it's messy. Wife makes a very good poached egg, by the way. I couldn't fucking do that shit. Scrambled is generally the preference, generally speaking. Scrambled egg on toast, smash on a bit of ketchup. That's going to upset loads of people. Perlo's Pen says, have you pulled together a Champman team yet? If yes, who's in it? Honest question, Peter. I haven't even signed in yet. That's the honest truth. It is something I will do this weekend. Either Saturday or Sunday, worst case. I will definitely do it this weekend, but I haven't as yet. Danny Cunningham says, was going to do Jimenez, Antonio in 8, like many, I imagine. You mean game week 8, obviously, Danny. Already have Bale and Son. Would you do a -4 Jimenez to Kane this week, as Antonio now most likely out for a month? The priority, Danny, genuinely is to remove Gareth Bale from your team. Don't be stubborn about it. I got him in for 4 game weeks. It's not happening, mate. He's not fit. Let me be very honest about this with Gareth, and I obviously love Gareth. He's the best player I've ever seen play for Tottenham. If Gareth Bale was a new signing and he wasn't called Gareth Bale, on what you'd seen so far, you would say he's shit. Now, I know he's not fit. I can see it. So that's obviously not the perception. I'm telling you on what I've seen so far, you would go, ordinary. It's too much money for a guy that's almost definitely going to be on the bench, Danny. So removing Bale has to be the priority. You've still got Son, and then you can add Kane to it. So if you need to move Jimenez to Kane this week to make that happen, and particularly if you want to captain Kane, then downgrade Bale. You can downgrade Bale to Grealish area or something like that. That would be the advice, I think, Danny. Sean Talon says, worth a -4 to do Wood, Taylor to Chilwell, Bamford. They plan to do Wood to Antonio next week, but Antonio's now out for 4 weeks, it seems. Cheers. I prefer Che Adams, personally, but then that's personal circumstance. It's okay. Look, Wood has probably got to move on, mate, I would say. Even more so if Goodmanson's likely to be out, although you're probably not going to know before deadline. And Taylor to Chilwell is a very fair upgrade, particularly in the short term. So yeah, I don't have a problem with that move, Sean. Whitebeard says, Auto Recluse beat me to it. What Gaffer chips have you used already? What chips have I used? None. Talk about that Wednesday. Pups, morning, James. Any early thoughts on who will get promoted from the championship this year? Oh, God. You'll think I'm some sort of Planet EFL expert now. I'm definitely not, by the way, guys. Who will come up? Swansea. Reading. It's all or nothing, isn't it? And you know what? Bournemouth. Maybe just Bournemouth. I wouldn't rule Blackburn being out of contention. They've built the squad up well. So early in the season, right? So early. If I'd stick my neck out right now, I'd probably say Swansea. FTLOL podcast. Morning, James. Best replacements for Castagne. Tough one. I would think if you don't have Chelsea, as much as I've said, look, the rotation shit's going to bite. As long as you've got good substitutes, Reece James, to be honest. As long as you know you've definitely got one defensive playing substitute, Reece James would be the preference. And you've got to know that with James and Chilwell, it's going to frustrate. You can't be sitting there with 3.9 million defenders on the bench if you've got the likes of Reece James, Chilwell. It's going to bite you. If you've got the cover, they're the best right now for the next 3 game weeks. Diddy Wah says, morning, James. How are you keeping? Good luck in our head-to-head fixture this week in draft. Very good luck, my friend. Nick Griffith, morning, James. As a Fulham fan, I have a huge amount of love and interest for Sessegnon and his career. Do you think he has a future at Spurs, and how dependent is that on Mourinho being at the club? Well, Sessegnon, from Mourinho's perspective, when he left, Mourinho spoke about longer term, actually, the idea of Reguilon and Sessegnon basically being the left backs. It's genuinely what he spoke about. So I know he's starting at the moment left wing back for Hoffenheim. He played for them in Europe in midweek. I had a check on him. He's doing okay out there. That's what he needs. He needs confidence. He needs playing time. I would have preferred him to go for a club and be playing at left back, personally, to build on his defensive stuff. Because I think he's got the potential to be an excellent left back. My instinct, Nick, is it's not going to come for him. That's my instinct. I've not been overly impressed on what I've seen so far. I think as a winger, he doesn't sense opportunity enough. And I think as a fullback, he's just going to get caught out too much. And from a Mourinho perspective, that's going to fall out. By the time he comes back, Mourinho might not be the manager, by the way, right? You never know with Jose. Rhino's lead said, would you take the Monday Night Football spot if he who shall not be named was the other pundit? No, mate, because I don't fancy Joe. Sonny said, would you still go for a Saints player in Sky if you have Lamptey for the Friday night game? Good question, Sonny. At the moment, no. I'm not going to do it. I need to work out what I'm doing with Antonio, and it might be that for me in that particular game, that Che Adams is still the best choice. And if that's the case, that's the move I'll make. But I'm beginning to look at other things now, like Phil Foden, for example, getting ready for Manchester City's brilliant run of fixtures for game week 10. That's what I'm thinking. The Southampton boys will be the better captaincy choice. There's no doubt about it. But it will probably save me 2 transfers because down the line, I was probably almost definitely going to remove it. So if you've got Lamptey, as long as he comes through the game on Sunday, etc., then keep. It's a shame from that perspective that Brighton aren't playing Saturday, so you know that if you come through the game okay without injury, etc., because that would be a sickener to go through it. Lamptey gets injured Sunday night, and then you kind of feel forced to buy a Southampton player Friday. That would be a sickener. And in that case, it's possible then I just wouldn't bother. So at the moment, no intention. But if I come to the conclusion that he's the best choice for Antonio anyway, and factoring in that I would captain him, then yes, I may still end up going for Che Adams in Sky. Jonathan A says, "Hey James, do you think West Ham go back to back 4 when their fixtures improve?" Beginning to think no, Jonathan. What's important is they can still play very differently within the same system. What becomes a 5-4-1/5-2-3 without the ball has got to become 3-4-3. That's what they've got to shift and change. And the interesting aspect is obviously Fulham is the first of the easier games on paper. Fulham will have more of the ball than West Ham. I'm very confident of that. And therefore, naturally, West Ham are going to fall into defensive shape. And that's what they have to be careful of. They have to keep the wing backs higher once they hit that Fulham fixture because they can afford to. It's playing Fulham. So I think that's what they'll likely do. Alistair Cooper says, "Hi, James, would you start Justin or Mitchell?" Justin, my friend. I'm beginning to lean to the idea that Mitchell probably isn't going to start anyway. Lee Jackson says, "Morning, boss. Non-FPL questions. I know you love them. Go on, mate. Let's fast forward 10 years. Harry turns around and says, Dad, I've had enough of Spurs. Why do you think that's going to take 10 years, mate? I'm not going to support them anymore. I've decided I'm a blank fan. What current Premier League team are you hoping he says?" None of them. But I can tell you in the order of preferences that I wouldn't want him to say Arsenal, Chelsea, West Ham, Manchester United, Liverpool are those that I wouldn't want him to say. Listen, there's no danger. There's no danger, mate. There's no danger. He'll get told. He'll know what's good for him. You want toys, boy? He won't get a choice. Ash says, "Hi, James. Best Antonio alternative, minus 6.5 million. Wilson, Watkins, Bamford, Burnley guys, other. Thanks." I'm going to say Che Adams, guys. Jonathan Sunil says, "Chilwell risk of rotation." Yes, there's always a risk of rotation, mate, in my opinion. The players put a quite at left back. We've got Marcus Alonso, Emerson still knocking about in the squad. Playing Champions League games. Of course, there's a risk. You think between now and game week 12, Ben Chilwell is going to play every Champions League game and every Premier League game? I'm telling you that he's not. Where that rest comes, I have no idea. Denver says, "Morning, James. Who to replace Hammers with, Foden or Grealish? I have 2 free transfers. Who would you recommend?" Phil Foden's got me 2 consecutive 6-point returns, right? And I'm not happy with it. But I'm happy kind of having him knocking around for game week 10 and beyond, even for substitute appearances with them fixtures. This is probably Phil. Harry Redmond says, "Not sure if you managed to catch the Liverpool Midtjylland close enough, but one of their players is actually the son of Diego Dorsal of the pharmaceutical company Dorsal's." Harry, you're wasting valuable time for people here. No, I didn't watch the game. I haven't watched the Champions League games because I can tell you nearly every team that's going to go through the group stage anyway. It's dull. I wouldn't watch the fucking Europa League unless my team was in it either. By the way, I'd only watch Tottenham. I ain't watching Arsenal or Leicester or none of that. Otsman says, "Your prediction for this game week, which team scores more times? Surprise teams win." What fixtures have we got this week? Surprise win. Possibly Newcastle to beat Everton, maybe, if Hammers isn't fit. Would be a surprise shout, maybe. Which team scores the most goals? It might be Fulham or West Brom. Genuinely. Might be. Ali Hewitt, they're obviously playing each other. Ali Hewitt says, hi, James. Is it worth downgrading Jimenez to Che Adams this week to allow me to upgrade Podence and Foden to Greenwood and Zaha next week without taking a hit? Can you not just roll the transfer? Sile says, best Barnes replacement. I've covered that one already, Sile, if you want to have a little rewind. Optimus says, confirmation that Antonio will miss the game at Anfield, but he's so bad. The press conference might be ongoing with David Moyes now, possibly. Jason Brunning, Souček or KWP to start, as in pick for your FPL team, Jason. Either. It feels like a good week to take a chance on Souček. I bet Suj on the podcast in the week that West Ham would only score from a set piece. If to score from a set piece is as likely as anybody. You see KWP clean sheet at Villa. It's an interesting one. Villa probably don't have the players to run and expose that sort of gap between particularly Kyle Walker-Peters and Bednarek. Grealish is obviously sort of feet, basically. Grealish can obviously still murder Kyle Walker-Peters. The other thing that would make me lean into Souček is just about every player that plays against Kyle Walker-Peters is against Jack Grealish is likely to get booked. It very easily becomes a 1 and 0 pointer for Kyle Walker-Peters. So I think Souček, mate. Sam Thomas says, thoughts on bringing in Reece James? Is that extremely brave as he didn't start midweek in a back four? Nothing into whether he played the last game or not, Sam. But yeah, genuinely, tailored to Reece James is a move strongly considered last week. I wouldn't have given a toss, basically, whether Reece James had played in the Champions League or not, or even the system. Wouldn't have been bothered. Mystery Mank says, what do you think about Jose laying into the team he picked again? He's sending a message. I don't read too much into last night. Genuinely. He's just sending a message. That's all it is. It was a bad performance in a game that it's really difficult to get motivated for. And they were decent, Royal Antwerp. They're top in Belgium. They retained the ball well. They defended extremely well. The amount of blocks and stuff they got in. It's no big deal. It's really difficult to motivate yourself for these type of games, knowing that you're probably going to stroll through the group anyway, and you've got another game in 3 days' time. And those who came into the team, like Dele Alli, etc., have had hardly any football. It's not easy for these guys coming into the team, believe me. So I have, since Tottenham first got back into Europa League, UEFA Cup in, what year would that have been? 2006. I have never, not a single one, seen a good Tottenham away group stage game in Europa League. Not a single one. If someone can name one, by all means, slide in my DMs and say, do you know what? That Tottenham Europa League game away to Tromsø or Sheriff or whomever shit from around the world was a good game. Come and tell me, please. You will not find one. This is not a big deal. These games, I know before I watch these games are going to be awful, even before I start. Go there and win 4-0 and everyone go, okay, move on, next game. That's it. So I'm not reading much into last night, to be honest. Mourinho sent a message to get them all motivated for Sunday. He's basically told everyone what the team is, in my opinion, unless it comes out as some injury news or something. Doherty Aurier would maybe be the close call in terms of who plays right back. Otherwise, that team basically probably picks itself now. So they have to go out and deliver now. And it was also a message to the press, right? In terms of start asking me why X player isn't playing, etc., etc. Do I think you should do it that way? No, but it's his style. I have to get used to it. Andy Ken says, morning, James. Happy Friday. Charlie Bridge, Salah versus Kane captaincy this weekend. My preference would be Salah. I'll be on Kane as I don't own Salah. But yeah, my preference would be the same as last week. I'll just edge towards Salah. Sile D, Charlie Taylor, an option. He's definitely an option, mate. But I wouldn't be buying him now when he's possibly about to drop in value, mate, and before they play Chelsea. Jonathan says, big fan of your insights. I'm about to do Dean to Chilwell. Any risk of rotation during Champions League and many fixtures? Have a little rewind, Jonathan. Colin Con says, why is it so hard to burn a transfer? I have 2 possible transfers. What do you think? 1, do Hammers to Foden to avoid his injury. -4 later. Or Webster to Kilman. KWP or Ailing a 4 Leeds double column. There's too much going on there, mate. Get in my DMs, pal. FPL Anderson says, do I risk Saiz or not as bench? Or not, as bench isn't good enough. James starting, Chilwell, Saiz. Guys, let's get these questions right, please. It's not bad. These has to go out for an audio as well. These long questions are not good for audio. Come back on the deadline stream later and we'll go through them then when it's just YouTube content. Al Dante says, got Fernandez to go and Pulisic. Joshua Tan says, hi, James. Good day to you. Who will you captain? Just covered that. No news yet on James. Keep an eye on the press conferences. Suvanch says, best Antonio replacements. I've covered that one as well. Nick Griffith. Ben Dinner has just confirmed Antonio will miss the game versus Liverpool. No mention on how long he's out, though. Okay, that will probably come out at some point between now and deadline. Jonathan says, mate, you've asked that so many times, pal. Grekler, thoughts on doing Wilson to Bamford? Yeah, it's okay, mate. Don't have any major thoughts on it, though, if I'm honest. Harry Redmond says, Taylor to Zuma this week to make overall -8 or wait? Bloody hell, mate. No. Wait that out, pal. FPL Glasgow says, morning. Victor says, James, you absolute legend. What you reckon about Jota? Don't go near him. Simple as that, mate. There's a detailed podcast Tuesday. I think the 4-2-3-1 essentially. I actually think it was because of concerns they had about Sheffield United, overloads they have in wide areas. So I think they'll go back to 4-3-3, most likely. Jota's the obvious fall guy in that system. Is he going to get minutes? Yes. This might be one you want to come back and look at, game week 10, game week 11 or so. Not for me, mate. Kartik says, should I keep double Liverpool defence for one more week? That will allow me to say transfer this week and then remove Jimenez next week along with TAA and -4. Listen, you know, Kartik, when you ask me that question, you know what the answer is going to be, because I can tell you right now that I will start Trent and Robertson away to Manchester City next week. I don't care. Danny McDonald says, do you think there's much point owning premium assets like Salah if you're not going to captain him? Currently thinking of Son, Kane captain for 7 and 8 and then Rashford captain for 9. Depends, right? This is what I spoke about on length, Danny, on Tuesday's podcast about the Tottenham issue. The fact that there's probably going to be no Tottenham captaincy between game week 9 and game week 16, basically, when Tottenham play Fulham. And even then, Tottenham will have played 2 days earlier and it's Fulham at home. So even the likes of Kane could be up for rotation, etc. So there's potentially, after game week 8, there's potentially no more captaincy options for Tottenham where you genuinely want to do it till 2021. So people have a decision to make on Harry Kane. It's less of a decision as Son because his value is so great, right? If he bought at 9, Kushti, he can sit there. He's the obvious one to stay. Harry Kane at nearly 11 million, or probably will be 11 million by the time game week 8 comes round, is then a big decision. That is a huge chunk of money for a player that you are probably not going to captain again this year. And I suspect what people will do will come a lot down to when they bought at. My intention at the moment would be to move him on, just go, yep, Heung-min Son, thank you very much. I'll go 3 cheap forwards, and then I can beef up that midfield to steam into Manchester City for the period that I want to. Burnley at home, Fulham at home, West Brom at home are 3 of Manchester City's fixtures between game week 10 and game week 13. There's every chance I'll sit there with De Bruyne and Raheem Sterling in my team. And those who hold on to the likes of Kane are probably not going to get there. One idea, I think, during the later period here is you'll get a lot of jumping between Liverpool and Manchester City. Because it's worth saying when City have the other fixtures that City have in that period is Manchester United away. Generally fine, you can carry on. Liverpool away to Fulham that game week. So then it's obvious it's Liverpool, right? So I think 11, 12, 13, you'll get a lot of jumping between City, Liverpool. That might be what I do as well. Shano83, hi James, hope you're well, mate. Thoughts on Podence to Grealish? Sounds good. Or Burke to Grealish, leaving 0 in the bank. Does that mean Podence is going to be becoming a regular first sub for you? I wouldn't be keen on that. I'd rather move the Podence and then you can do what you want. You might that might even allow you, Shano, next week, Burke to Souček. No? You might decide you want to do that move. Santos said, is it time to consider Rashford more seriously? I am. And Antonio looks out for a month. What does it mean to Bowen's FPL appeal? Son or Kane for captaincy? Unfortunately, many of you won't have seen this, but we discussed this again on the Sky podcast on Wednesday because I asked Suj about Jared Bowen, and Suj was he was pretty blunt about it. He was like, if Antonio's out, that makes everybody at West Ham a worse option. Simple as that. So doesn't increase the appeal. No. Narcy says Reece James and Chilwell, Chelsea double up. I mean, probably one of them should always play. That's the good news about that. Martin Cafferty, best replacement for Bale with 1.5 million in the bank. To get you up to 11, doesn't it? Might be Bruno Fernandes. If I could go Bruno, I'd probably still go Bruno at the moment for the consistency. And then it'd be nearer at the value I want to do to shove him onto City in perhaps game week 10 or so. Shano, thanks, man. The cardigan. Listen, I'm 37 years old and I'm a dad. If I want to wear cardigans, I'm absolutely allowed, especially when it's still morning as well. Mad says, best forward trio for the long term. Calvert-Lewin, Kane, and Shea Adams, possibly. But as I said, Kane and that value, do you want it between game week 9 and 16? It's going to be a big call for everybody who's already on and stuff. Charlie Bridge, Moyes has confirmed Antonio is out for tomorrow. This is me obviously catching up on all the chat here. Danny Cunningham, has he? In the press conference question, yeah, he said it. Araf says, is it a good idea to get Kane in place of Dominic Calvert-Lewin for the next 2 game weeks? Yeah, but if you bought Dominic Calvert-Lewin at 7 million, you ain't making that move because then you ain't buying him back. I keep DCL, mate. Find a different solution. Pelos Pen said best Antonio replacement for Sky. 10.2 million to spend. It might be, Alex, Riyad Mahrez. Have a second look, mate. Neil says, high love from Kenya. Kane or Son for captain for Trent. What do you think about a West Ham defender? I certainly wouldn't think about West Ham defender for this week. Maybe next week. Kane or Son for captain. My preference would be Kane, personally. Someone said to me on DM early in the week, do you not fancy Son more because he's got more chance of getting in behind Brighton? I said, yeah, in principle, that's very good. I said, did Son get behind Burnley? No. Son get 6 more points than Kane? Yeah. It's unpredictable, right? The key stat that I'd prefer at the moment for Harry Kane over Heung-min Son is quite simply that Brighton and Hove Albion have conceded 12 goals from 18 shots on target so far this season. And Harry Kane will likely have more shots on target. That's it. It's a very close call for this particular fixture. FPL telling Josh, morning James, 1 FT this week from Dyer to Chilwell or Rodriguez if out. Oh, wait, Rodriguez if out to Pulisic. Doesn't feel the right week to sell Eric Dyer. Brighton and West Brom next, to be honest. Rodriguez to Pulisic might give you the same problems. One of the things I need to weigh up today, really importantly, is does Pulisic even start against Burnley? That's what I need to think about. Is there any doubt on that at all? And I need to consider that. We've got Ziyech back available now. What system are they going to play? And I think this is why I'm probably going to lean into Marcus Rashford first, personally, which you possibly can't on that move. Wait on the presses, but it doesn't feel like the right time to sell Eric Dyer. It sounds 2 weeks too early to me. Ross Watson, morning James. Sky question. Got a few of the Sky guys in today. Not sure how to get off the Kane and Son double over the next few game weeks. Doesn't look like there's much chance to make the player gains. Any thoughts? Cheers. Well, quite right. One that we're definitely hoping for, and we don't know yet, is in game week 9. So after Tottenham play Manchester City on the Saturday, at least one of Everton or Liverpool is going to be on the Sunday. Almost 100%. So then it's Salah, if you can, or obviously Dominic Calvert-Lewin straight into a captaincy against Fulham. So those 1 or 2 ways off. So remember, you haven't got the full picture yet for game week 9. So it could be Salah. You walk into Liverpool v Leicester, probably captaincy immediately, or Everton v Villa, Everton v Fulham, Calvert-Lewin captaincy immediately. We're not going to know that game week 9 shit for probably another week or so. So you're just going to have to take it and wait. Maybe not even till after game week 8 has gone. So it's going to be one of those things. But that will be the point to come off. Failing that, it's one of them where the fixtures turn so much for Tottenham versus, say, Manchester City after they play each other. on that Saturday in game week 9, that you might just go, look, I can't get the fixture game, but over these 5 fixtures, he is going to outscore him by this. And you just do it. It's a perfect case where you can do that. We always want to take the gains in the Sky game, but sometimes you're better off just making the transfer. That may well be one of them. Shana83 says, I was saving bit in the bank to get KDB in a couple of game weeks' time. Yeah, that's roughly where I'm going to be as well, mate. Kairawa, sorry if I mispronounced that. Do you take the opinions of people who are ranked millions of places lower than you seriously? Yes, 100%. Because everybody's got the same voice and the same entitlement to have an opinion. And my rank's shit as well anyway. So why would anybody be listening to me when my rank's 3.3 million? Watch all the viewing numbers go down. Yeah, everybody's got the same voice. What, somebody who's like 5 million in the world can't have a good opinion? Of course they can't. Of course they can. It's a nonsense to think otherwise, that you wouldn't listen to these people. David Strom says, for both FPL and Sky, could Zuma be an option? He looks like he has a pretty secure place in the team. The answer is yes, if it's safe and easy to get there, but not one I'd force. I'd be a bit more concerned about Sky, David, because of Rudiger's integration back into the squad is concerning. Dots FPL, McCarthy or Meslier? I have Dallas, by the way. If you got Dallas, I'd be tempted to go McCarthy. But if it was just a straight choice, I'd maybe go Meslier, to be honest. Yeah, not a lot in it. Not a lot. Me and Suj are going to have to buy one of these for our differential team. I'm not keen on it. Adam Keener asked how Bell looked last night. Have a little rewind, Adam. Patrick Lawson said, has been any news on Struijk? Would he play? I think we're waiting on Bielsa's press conference to get an idea on that, to be honest, Patrick. I generally don't know. Patrick says, how long do you expect until we start seeing Bell starting in the Prem? So look, it's not unthinkable that he could start on Sunday, but I would be stunned, genuinely stunned. West Brom is possible, but I think more likely in terms of starting at the moment, it's all on his fitness. It's all on his fitness, genuinely. I think possibly Chelsea game week 10 is probably where we're heading towards. Tanzid says, captain between Sterling, Son, Werner, Pulisic, Trent Alexander-Arnold. Please help me. Sonny, mate. Quite straightforward. Chris Woods, hi, James. If you look at fixtures up to game week 16, Villa are top of the ticker. Thoughts on their assets, please? Have just bought in Target as third bench option. Works quite nicely availing KDWP. Yeah, I mean, there were probably 7 options that I'd want to consider at Aston Villa. I must say Matt Target wouldn't be one of them, though. But he'd probably be the 8th if there was one. Yeah, great run of fixtures. Villa very much on the radar. It's one I'm going to come back and probably revisit game week 9 or so, personally. Just doesn't work for me at the moment, I don't think. I could, of course, go down to Grealish, for example, today from Bale. It's not something I particularly want to do because I'm then going to be going Jimenez probably down to Che Adams, suddenly I'm sitting there with 5 million in the bank and not wanting to spend it next week with City and Liverpool playing each other. So it's just probably not quite right for me at the moment. I'll come back to it probably in game week 9. But yes, they do have a brilliant run of fixtures, Aston Villa. Planting Seeds says, morning, Jim Bob. TAA, Jimenez, Traore out for Mane. Fodder. You know what my answer is there. I don't even need to answer it, mate. No. Shane Mibb says, is this the week to bring back KDB? If it works for your teams, yes. Andy Ken says, considering Watkins as a different Antonio replacement, yeah, very reasonable. If you want to go to Watkins as a differential to what I'm saying on like Adams, or plenty will be thinking Bamford now, for example. Yeah, Ollie Watkins, very, very reasonable shout. For me, I just want to make. I haven't got any Villa at the moment. I kind of want to make sure, and I'm probably only going to go for one. I want to get the right one. And Watkins for me to buy now, if I had Antonio, would be a bit punty. It would be, it's fallen into place, but I'm not sure. That's how I'd feel about it. FPL Thomas, he was a bargain, but does Doherty look like a bit of waste of money at Spurs? Keep up the good work, James, and remember, nothing compares to you. Yes, great work from you and John UK on the Man on Pod this week. I really enjoyed that, mate. Top effort. He's shit. Doherty. I can't believe how bad he is at the moment on what I've seen. Yeah, it's not good. His recovery is frightening. If someone goes past him, he jogs. I can't take it. On the ball, he's fine, and that obviously he offers an aerial threat and that as well. I just defensively, so bad. Hopefully that will get coached into him properly, and we'll get that fixed up. Right, let's do a couple more questions before we finish, guys. I'm doing these all in order, so honestly, there's no point popping any more questions into the chat now. Scott Schrager says, good morning, James. Thoughts on Werner, James, or Adams De Bruyne? Adams De Bruyne would be my preference. Patrick Lawson, do we think Ben Rama will come into the West Ham team? Not convinced that will be the immediate Antonio solution, personally. Shane Mibb, you getting rid of Pereira? I will be, but I don't want to get rid of him before Fulham. He's going to stay. He's going to stay, and then priority move next week. Jimenez to kind of Che Adams area, as I said, and then Pereira up. And like I said, he's probably whichever one of Rashford or Pulisic I don't buy this week, I'm probably using as the Pereira replacement next week. That's probably where I'm at. Keza says, morning, James. Thoughts on keeping 2 rotating keepers? McCarthy, Ryan, don't hate it, but I'd probably just go 1. They're both probably pretty safe. If you don't need the money, it's fine. And if you're getting good rotation out of them, great. I don't know when you're getting a good rotation out of Matt Ryan at the moment, but it might come. You'll probably want to play Matt Ryan against, take that game week 8. Perfect example. What do you do next week? Matt Ryan at home to Burnley. Alex McCarthy at home to Newcastle. Who do you pick? It's not easy, is it? There were probably better rotations going. I would have a second look at perhaps Meslier to partner one of them, maybe have a second look at it. Sujan Shah's in the chat just in time. Morning, James. Morning, all. Tom says, is Ferguson to Casey the most boring transfer in FPL history? Who's Casey, mate? It's a player I don't know. Alan says, am I doing Vardy, Calvert, and Ings? Good for you, mate. Harry Redmond. Is Trossard someone worth moving on? Possibly. I really like him as a player. Really like him. Burnley in game week 8 is the sort of fixture that makes you hold more, but actually, unfortunately, might be better options. I was so unimpressed with them Monday night. They'll improve, but they were bad Monday night. Looked shaky without Lewis Dunk, really shaky. Shane Mibb, does stay with Mitrovic, or who would be the best alternative? Listen, this was always going to be the case with Mitrovic. Mitrovic is definitely hold for this game week, and then that's it. That's it. Hold now, and then that's it. Move on. It was always going to be the case if you started with Mitrovic that he was going to end up sitting there for weeks, because Fulham had a good run of fixtures, and they got like jackal in terms of points, and it's about to get a lot worse for them. They have to beat West Brom on Monday. Have to. Praise says, morning, James. Who do you think is a better captaincy? Kind of done that, my friend. TJ Dara, morning, James. Love the Swansea promotion call. Already have Kilman, but thinking about upgrading Taylor Dunn to Saish just to be sure. Don't go to Saish this week, my friend. Good luck this weekend. Brunner's in. We'll finish with him. Morning, James. Morning, all. Hope you're doing good, bud. Sorry if you've already been asked this, mate, but what do you make of last night? Credit to Antwerp. They look brilliant. We look terrible. Yeah, you've nailed it. I have already covered it, my friend. That'll do, guys. Just approaching the hour mark. I will have another deadline stream today, 5:30 p.m. Final hour before deadline. Be fast-paced, all FPL focused, and I'll get through as many of your questions then if you want to come back now. Sorry if I didn't get to your questions on this occasion. Keep a close eye on the press conferences this afternoon, guys. Particularly things like following Bielsa news. I know someone was asking on a few others as well. Those who played in Europa League last night, you probably won't get any further information. Keep an eye out for important things like Liverpool team news, for example, could be really important. Do we get anything further on James Rodriguez? Wait. Don't make a move now. I would, if you've not made your transfers for this week, 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. is the sort of time today, UK time. After the press conferences, once you got the information, sit back, focus without, oh, I've got this news now disturbing me. Just take a little bit of time out then, make your moves then. That's what I'll be doing. I hope to see many of you again around about 5:30 for the benefit of those listening on the audio. Cue music, please, man child.